It is a great day, and you are tuning into Sisters Talk Leadership. And my name is Kristi Burns, and this is where you unmask the myths, okay? And today we have none other than Mr. Joel Brown from Arrived Leadership, who states that your leadership path is a journey. So when you have arrived, you know there are more steps. And so we're going to allow him to introduce himself before we go into what today's topic is.
All right. Well, thanks. First of all, thank you for the invite to be on this podcast. I was super excited about this when we talked not too long ago, and you asked me to be on because there are two people that I absolutely admire. So, as you said, my name is Joel Brown. I am a respiratory therapist, of course, and I am the CEO of Arrive Leadership. I also have a nonprofit called the Brochure Foundation, where we provide scholarships for kids who are in need and underrepresented. In addition to that, I am the president-elect for the AARC, which I'm extremely happy and proud about that.
That's amazing.
And I'm just someone who loves learning, loves leadership, loves to see people grow and continue to grow while I'm doing it. But also, my big job that I have is I'm a dad. I have two girls that I am super proud of, and a husband, of course, husband and a dad. So that's my job that I guess I'm the most proud.
And that is amazing. And so we are so grateful to have you here. Today's topic is impact versus impression. Can I get a ooh?
Uh-oh.
Because I feel like that is something that people kind of shy away from, or either they don't know the difference between the two. And I know this conversation is going to be extremely phenomenal with your background in coaching, mentorship, sponsorship, and other things, and just developing organizations and individuals as a whole. So super excited to get into the content. But before we get started, let's play a game. So the game is called Unmasking You. So it goes kind of along with our tagline, which is unmasking the myths and owning the journey. And so I feel like you need to know who you are, and we need to know who we are as individuals. So this game is super quick, right? So state a sentence. We complete the sentence as individuals. You have 10 seconds to do it.
10 seconds. All right. We're going to do our best with
10
that
seconds. So you need a quick fire, right? All right. So first question. People think that I am confident, but before big moments, I actually...
Goodness gracious, that's a tough one. So before big moments, actually, before I speak, I am extremely nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Right up to the point when I walk on the stage, I am nervous. I am nervous until the first word comes out my mouth.
I think for me, it's a mixture of everything. There is no one emotion that I can pinpoint. You know, I'm super excited. I'm happy. Physically, I'm nauseous. You know, so there's a lot going on. But more than likely, I'm mainly excited. So I think all of those are great, right? Next.
Yeah, that's a good question.
If your team could hear what you were thinking in a meeting, they'd say,
what I would be saying is,
yeah, if they can hear
man,
your thoughts in the meeting.
they are more prepared and ready for this moment than they even know. That's usually always what's going on in my mind. There, folks who are just living in doubt, and you're like, man, you are so ready for this moment. Just go take it. Yeah.
Just do it. Well, I guess we're one and the same on this one, because I'm definitely the same way. I'm like, okay, what is it? You're good. Yep, you're almost there. All right, boom, got it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're one and the same on that one. That was good. All right, so a leadership lesson that you have learned the hard way was?
Oh, so my background is, I started off in the military. And the lesson I learned is that you're no longer in the military. People don't just follow instructions. You have to give them inspiration.
That's good. And then mine is impact empathy versus accountability, because I'm so caring, and you have to be able to differentiate the two. All of those were good. Quick. So the feedback that humbled me the most was
that man, that's a tough one. One that humbled me actually was that I was expecting my team to take time off, but yet I wasn't doing it. And I had one of my direct reports say, it's hard for me not to take the time off when I don't see you doing it. So I had to be the example that I expected.
Yeah. All right. And then for me, it's that my intentions is not always the team's or anybody's reality. And so I have to bridge the gap between the two. So meet somewhere in the middle and figure out how what I'm intending to do or intending to say or intending to make them feel is how they can regurgitate that back to me. Is that the reality for them?
Nice.
But it reminds me when you were talking about comparing it in your marriage, one of the speaks that I heard Joel do is, the love languages. So typically a lot of people apply that to marriages and any other relationships that they have, not realizing that you can utilize those same principles with learning and doing recognition and other things with your team and people that you're trying to, empower. So just wanted to put that out there. Okay. So the last question is what's your kryptonite?
My kryptonite is definitely seeing someone who has potential and
Mhm.
just gives up. I it is the one thing that I just feel like I have to help them.
Mm.
Like, even, you know, actually, I we can talk about it later, but I go into this whole thing about talking about helping people who are looking for help. Like the
Mm.
doctor takes care of people coming into the office. He doesn't run out going looking to see who's sick.
Mhm.
And so as a leader, to preserve myself, I have to
Mhm.
stop going out looking for the sick.
Mhm.
And that could be a whole separate
That could be a
sec-
whole different topic.
yeah.
And then mine is my heart. I care a lot. So, you know how that can be when it comes to
Yeah.
caring.
Yeah. That's why you're in
So,
healthcare though.
yeah.
But that's also the part that makes it difficult to transition from being a care provider and then leading the team.
And then yep,
Yeah.
I
I'm
absolutely
actually currently working with a group of counselors, psychologists, and psychiatrists and all that stuff. And you
mhm,
wouldn't believe they have all those concepts because they're used to helping people. But leading a team is different than caring for someone's mental health.
mm,
Although they have some of the same concepts, at the end of the day, while you're leading folks, you do need them to perform. You do need lead them to meet goals and all that stuff. Whereas
mhm,
the counseling direction may be slightly different. And so just listening to, I'm learning a lot from them about the approach that they would typically take, but at the same time trying to give some guidance on, like, that's where the line is, because not a gray line, it's a thick black line between counseling and coaching or leading.
mhm,
Yeah. You can get dangerously into the wrong space.
mhm. Right.
Yes.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and it makes me think recently of something that I had to explain to a group of individuals, which is, I called it "Stop blurring the lines."
Mm,
And blurring the lines to where you put your leader in a place to think that they owe you something. You're entitled based off of relationship that you think you're building, and because it's so great and grand that that policy that needs to be abided by, it doesn't abide to you. It doesn't, it has nothing to do with you. You're blurring the lines between the fact that I have to hold you accountable and that I cannot empathize with that.
mm.
And so that was a heavy conversation to have, but I think it was warranted in that, particular situation. Stop blurring the lines because it has to exist. But I think that that game was amazing because
Yeah.
we have to unmask who we are as individuals and who we are as leaders because reflection is a part of that. And unmasking who you are to me helps you pour into other people when you know who you are and where you start from. And we may not know individually because who I was as a leader 10 years ago is definitely not who I am.
What?
Yeah.
What?
It makes a huge difference. So going into impact versus impression, what does that mean to you?
That I appreciate that. So when you hear stuff like that, it's always, I mean, you feel grateful, but it's always like, oh my gosh. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. That is something I 100% believe in that. I
Mhm,
call it being perfectly imbalanced, because there is
mhm,
no work life balance. Just numerically, you can't obtain it, right? If I'm going to be at work for 10 hours and I got to drive an hour to work back and forth, now we're at 12. I gotta get ready in the morning, that's a half hour at least, right? So now we're 12 and a half, and, like, when you add, and then that leaves and then I need to sleep for at least 6, we're at 18 and a half, right? It doesn't leave half of the time for my family. So I truly, like, I would even, like, if I was on a call or even in the work mindset, I would sit in my garage first in the car until I shed that, and then once I went in that door, I was my kids. I belong to my kids. I belong to my wife. I am not answering the call. I used to tell my team, unless the building literally burns down,
mhm.
like, and I should hear ambulance in the background before you call me when I'm in
Yeah,
family time, because you're capable leaders. And I know you guys can handle any other thing, that you could just give me these 2 hours that I'm going to spend with my family.
Mhm.
Not answering the phone, not answering text, and I'm definitely not looking at my email.
Mm. And put my head down.
I'll tell you the story about the email that you'll find funny and the audience probably find funny. So about right before COVID, I went on a trip. We went to Colombia. We were going from Cartagena to Medellin, and there was some time in between. We had to fly from one spot to the other. So I
Mhm.
said, this is a great time for me to check my email. I'm with all my friends. We're having a ball. I go downstairs. I open up my computer. I open my email, and I saw there was a message from one of my direct reports. I had gave him clear instruction. You have the power to make this decision. Budget is approved. You just say yes, you don't need me. And what I noticed is there was an email chain that said, let me get Joel's approval. Everybody on it, and they were all waiting for me. Well, I got angry. I'm not talking about, look, I was pissed off. I mean, I was not happy. And it ruined 23 hours of my vacation by looking at that one email. It was on my mind constantly that this thing was delayed. Patients could have been, and
Yeah.
it could have not got approved. And it took one of my friends back then. They had that commercial when they said, "Dude, you need a Snickers? Do you want a Snickers?" And one of my friends said, "Man, do you need a Snickers?" And I
Right.
bust out laughing,
Yeah.
and that broke me out of it. But it was an example how just the peak of that email,
Mhm.
right? Just 23 hours of my 6-day vacation
Mm.
was
Mm-mm.
gone. Would it and guess what? At the end of the day, it was gonna wait until I got back anyway, because that put a
Yeah.
permanent pause on it, and I probably missed an opportunity to really teach around it. So I've just learned, especially on vacation, to just leave it. I guarantee you all the problems you left with will be
Yeah.
waiting for you very happily and patiently in your office when you return. Your looking is not going to change it.
I think having a great work-life balance is what helps you make a better impact as a leader than impression anyway,
Yeah.
because we've regulated ourselves in order to help regulate, the team. And as you gave the example before, it's leading by example. And it starts with, with us as leaders. When I think about impact, I think about honestly myself first. Like I want to be the leader I wanna follow. So,
Yeah.
in being the leader that I wanna follow, what does that look like? And how do I do that? And so that's kinda where I stem from when I'm trying my best to pour into others and coming from, my own experiences and everything else. Do you feel like there's a particular time either one of you all think for me too on your leadership journey where you maybe didn't know the difference and there was something that happened and then you said, I thought that I was impacting my team. I thought I was influential, but in reality, I wasn't. And I had to make a change in order to do something else.
I will say that I probably learned more about the difference between impact and impression by observing others,
Mm,
and then modifying a quick example is I was part of a program called Leadership Delaware. I was chair of the board until December, and
mm,
and I passed the chair rollover, but still very active in it. So um, during that program, we have 140 speakers in a year, right? So
mm,
all doing a 1-hour lecture. So it's 140 hours of lecturing that you get over 11 months. And there was a judge, Judge Josh Martin, who was one of those data points that came, and his presentation changed the way I think,
mhm.
the way I move from that point on, who I thought I could be.
Mhm.
The 2 what did I go there? Yeah, what that led to is, number 1, like, impact there was that he checked the box of being there, but he was an example where the impression he put on me of,
Mm,
like, wow, like, here's this person, and I've heard 140 speakers, and this one person, the way he presented and the way he explained things, I was like, "I wanna be able to deliver a message like that. I wanna be able to move in that manner." Wonderful impression. The opposite side of that is I had a director that I got to observe when I was an educator and a manager, and this director, she was just rough. Impression, no one like, people struggled with her, and I'm being nice. But the impact of the things she did, meaning she got us to have more staff, she got us to think more team-based for our clinical areas, and that still goes on today. So she was impactful, but impression-wise, I don't think anybody would wanna work with her again. So what I'm going with this is that you need a little of both, because if you have impact without a the impression you could be the last story. I'm not saying that he didn't have impact because he had impact on me, but I'm not sure the impact he had on everybody else. He was someone I really related to, and the way he presented just spoke to my soul.
Mhm.
So I think there's times when impression is really important and times when impact are important. You just can't leave either one like totally at the wayside.
Mm. Yeah, I think I'm kinda along the lines of what you all said, that you have to have a little bit of both. I think the hardest part for a leader is deciphering when it's the right time to do either one of them. Initially, when you come in on a job, at least I know for me, like you said, from an impression standpoint, it's more of proving myself. I have to prove to you, well, at least that's what I feel, that I have to prove to you that you did select the right person. I am the girl for the job. I can get the job done, but I think oftentimes that usually leads to no outcomes, no goals. You have a great mission, you talk the talk, you do the thing, but then there's stuck. You're stagnant.
Mhm.
And you never get to actually fulfilling whatever that vision or mission was that you came into as a leader. And so I often think of like the impression itself is it looks like the resume, but then the impact is what do the people say as your reference?
Mhm.
So, how did you make them grow along the way? Because, like you said, let's take me out of the picture. It's not about me, it's about the team. And so, I feel like your greatest impact is as good as the most people that you empower and help to grow. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what it stands for me. And it took me years, over 10 years, for me to figure that out. But I'm glad to be here. Thank the Lord.
Yeah.
Glad to be here. But, it's, it's something now that as I am empowering others and pouring into others that I let them know because I feel like sometimes, even though some people have their own journey, yes, you want to have your own path. I want to kind of tell you from experience what I've went through. So maybe you can skip some steps and kind of get there. And I think that leads right into skipping the steps is where Joel comes into play because you're changing the mindset, you're shifting it, you're asking questions, dive deeper, you're making people think beyond what they would normally think. And that's what we want to talk about. Is Joel, how do you do it? How it's done? How does it work? Before I get into some other deeper questions I have, how does that work?
Goodness, how does that work? That's a open question. Goodness.
It's how it work for you because you're doing it.
Yeah. You know what? I think part of it is I don't think about it as much.
Mm.
Someone one time asked me, they said, "How are you going to deal with the politics of being in, leadership at the AARC?" And I said, "You know
Mm.
how I deal with the politics of the AARC?" And they said, "How?" I said, "I don't get involved in them. I just be. I just go and do and be active and make things happen. If you go in looking to have to engage with politics, then you're probably failing from the beginning, right? You want to
Yeah.
engage with making our profession better. You want to engage with helping our patient outcomes. You want to engage with helping individuals. So I look at the same thing with impression and impact, right? Like start off wanting to do the right thing.
Mhm.
Always be a good person.
Mhm.
Treat everyone well. Treat everyone like they're the CEO, right? And if you
Mhm.
do those things, and then the part that to me, the impression part is not the hard work. If you're a good leader, you're going to make
Yeah.
a good impression. And if you're not, someone's going to tell you about it and they're going to check you on it and you should reevaluate. The part is the impact part, right? Is like, how do I make
Yeah.
change that's going to be positive for everyone and they feel like they're engaged and that it's going to be long lasting, right? Because
Mhm.
impression happens immediately. Impact is legacy, right? And so how do
Mhm.
I do things that are gonna leave legacy? Not
Yeah.
my legacy, legacy, right?
Mm.
So I guess I've never sat down and went, "Okay, is this something that I need to make sure I impress everyone. I make sure I put on the." No, I just kinda show up as I am, being
Yeah.
my authentic self. I was talking to one of my coaching clients, and I was talking about, the position we are in as leaders and how we are
Yeah.
blessed, and I don't wanna make this a sermon or anything, but, like, we are but,
We are
like
with you. Amen.
yes, you are blessed to be where you are. You have these
Yeah.
gifts that,
Mhm.
of course, you refine, but they're God-given gifts. Like
Yeah.
the worst thing you could do is try to like overthink your gifts. So, like the thing that comes natural, let it be natural. The thing you need to work on. Right? You come in as a leader that people. I always tell people you can actually. When I talk to most leaders, I go, "When did you know your leader?" Most time they're like, "Oh, when I was in high school, I noticed this," or "When I was in elementary school, I noticed this. When I was in junior high school, I knew this." right? I realized I was a leader after I was in the military, and then I looked back and I was like, "You know what? I was the coach of the football team." I mean, I was the coach. I was the captain of the football team. I was the captain of the wrestling team. I was the
Mhm.
captain of the track team. I was the captain of the soccer team. I was put made platoons. I was put in charge of my platoon when I first went in the army.
Mhm.
There's something's going on here.
Yeah.
And it took someone else to go, "That's because 'cause you're a leader," like, screaming at me, like, almost like slap me in the head. But again, it's not something you go out and look for. Most people that are in leadership roles are not like, "I grew up and I said, 'One day I'm going to be a leader.'"
Yeah.
It's a thing that happens, it's a God-given gift, and then if you're really blessed, someone shows up and sees it in you and then builds it and helps develop it, and then you can eventually use that tool. So that was a long way of saying impression, just be you. Impact, look for the things that are gonna be impactful in your area and make sure that they're gonna be life lasting and long lasting at least.
Right. I think we're smiling because that 1% of individuals who don't necessarily say that they're gonna be in leadership and I wanna be in leadership and that's what I wanna do. Melissa was actually that 1%.
Oh, I love those folks.
She knew from the jump that she wanted to be in leadership and she did everything that she could to get there and here she is.
Yeah,
So, to me though, I think that that speaks from a place of passion and passion always leads to purpose. So, some
absolutely.
people know their passion sooner than other individuals and I think for Melissa that would have been a passion. And so, operating in your passion allows you to have more impact as well than impression.
Yeah.
And even if you have some seasons where it's a little confusing or you have those blurred lines, you always get back on track because it takes you back to your why, it takes you back to your passion, and that's where the impact comes from that.
And I also believe, like you heard me saying, like some people it's early, some people it's late, right? I think that that enlightenment comes when it's this time,
Yeah,
right? It could be dormant in someone. Actually, you can meet someone who is like, man, I didn't realize I'm in my 40s. I want to take a step into the leadership world. I'm in my 60s. I want to take a step. And then you find that kid that you see, it's like 3 years old, and you're like, that kid's a leader.
yeah.
So it just depends on when it's your time.
Mhm. I agree. Everything happens in due season and in due
Yeah.
time. And one thing that I found, even with me becoming in the role that I am now, is that I didn't want individuals to believe more in me than I believed in myself. So everyone saw potential. They saw the impact that I was making without the titles. But because I was just being authentic and being who I wasn't concentrating on that. But then it's like one day it just clicked and I'm like, girl, go for this. Do this. You're this, and that's when the more affirmations, the prayers, seeking the guidance, the clarity, the wisdom, all of the things came along for now for me to walk in what is typically a calling into your passion, which goes right into, the impact portion because you're working as unto God versus man. And so you're not looking for the accolades from people. So that makes a difference to me in how you lead and how you a team as well. And so, from a coaching mentor, how do you coach leaders who think that they have it all together? They come in, they can tell you, ooh, this is my vision. My team's going to do this and we're going to be great and it's all going to work well, but they miss the mark. How do you coach? How do you guide
That's interesting because
those?
you know what I find is most people who actually seek coaching don't have that kind of mindset that
Mhm.
I got it all together. There are folks who are like, I want to seek, um, I need someone to be reflect. I need a mirror to tell me. And so I rarely find someone there. And as a coach, what we do from a technique standpoint is we ask a lot of questions,
Yeah.
right? So I always say there's a difference between a coach and then there's also the advisor. The advisor, I just give you advice. The
Okay.
coach, I'm asking you questions to get you to get in the right direction and think and see things clearly. So often, the good thing about me being a coach that has experience in leadership, that a lot of the things they're going through, I've been through, not all, but a lot.
Mhm.
So I'm able to ask questions or guide them in a way to make them think about things differently. And then every once in a while, I'll go, "All right, I need to put on my advisor hat for you." And then go,
Yeah.
"Do you," and I ask for permission, "You mind?" "Yeah." "Yeah, don't do that." It's like, or, "That's a great idea." But for the most part, as a coach, you're guiding folks.
Yeah.
So I rarely get someone who comes in just saying, "I know this is gonna work." This is it. I'm it. They're
Yeah.
always very curious individuals. I can tell you that there is a space for that, right? There are coaches who take on people who are like
Mhm.
really, really struggling, meaning someone who HR
Yeah.
recommended that you get a coach before you get fired, right? We
Mm.
want to try to see if we can fix you before you get fired. That's not my niche.
Mm.
I wanna be there to help you get better. I don't wanna be there after everyone else made what I don't know what approach they took, right? And it
Yeah.
might not have been the right approach. I prefer not to be put in those kind of situations. And,
Mhm.
each coach has their different specialty. I can tell you that the one where you take people who are struggling, is probably the more lucrative one because you will get a lot of contracts.
Mhm.
But taking ones where I have people who may have a couple things that they need to work on, has someone who is working their way up the ladder, need that extra nudge, someone who is already the CEO and just needs another leader to talk to. They're the
Yeah.
ones that I tend to gravitate toward. I
Mhm.
thought, in all of my career, I felt like I did well seeing that person that had that glimmer in their eye and like, man, like you too, right? I met both of you and I'm like, ooh, he is gonna be a she is gonna be a problem. She is gonna be absolute leader in any time. Like, that's my niche is, like, finding
Yeah.
those folks, having the words, guiding them into, like, taking it to the next level, and the ultimate in coaching, and I know I've been going on, is that they are even doing better than you. That is
Mm.
my you talk about what fills my cup is to be
Yeah.
sitting there in the audience and seeing someone thrive, and no one knows I had anything to do with it.
Mm.
At any given congress, there's probably about 3 or 4 of my clients there. You've never heard me introduce any of my clients to you.
Mhm.
I just sit back and watch them shine. I love it.
Mhm.
Love it.
So
So
great.
coaching for me is selfish
Yeah.
because I am feeling a love and a joy. So
Yeah.
it's definitely selfish.
Yeah. I'm so glad that we went down that avenue because I think that people, one, don't understand what coaching is. They don't understand the difference between mentorship. You just explained the difference between how things work. But then also to see it from the lens of you as the individual who supports and guides those individuals. And I think that our listeners will also see that you can too seek support in this way. Like it's not bad. Like everybody kind of shies away from no, I'm not going to therapy. I'm not doing that. I'm doing it. But no, I think that right there opened the eyes of individuals who may not have known or may have thought that they wanted to, invest in a coach and such and just didn't know what that looked like. So that
I
was good.
guarantee you, go if you talk to your C-suite, if there's 5 people in there, 3 to 4 of them have a coach. It's just something that we don't utilize for some reason. So 3 to 4 have a coach.
Mm.
So it's interesting. I'm blessed. I was able to work my way up the ladder quick. I had another business, was planning on retiring early. I had to financially got myself to a point where I could retire right before I turned 50. So I retired at 49 and a half on the dot. Like I actually picked my 49 and a half year birthday. Right when I got near the end of it, and I told my boss like almost 6 months ahead of time that I was retiring early. Actually, I
Um,
even gave them hints of it when I first started there. I was like, "Well, just let you know, I'm planning on retiring." I said at 50 at that time. So anyway, I had noticed that a lot of people kept coming to me and I was meeting with people who weren't even in my departments.
mm,
Like I'm a VP, I'm over the medical group. I'm meeting with some physicians and some other executive directors on a regular basis that are not they're not my direct reports. And I had one person say, "Hey, when you retire, can we keep doing this?" And I was like, and they were like, "Yeah, so and so and so and so, they have coaches, and so I want to make you mine." And I had knew about a coach. I found out that my old boss had a coach. My old boss had me get the coach. I used the coach for my team, and I was like, you
mm.
know what? Let me look into it. So then I went and got formally trained through the Center for Executive Coaching and got certified and all that stuff, and learned the techniques around it, so I could know the science behind it. Because respiratory therapists, we're scientists at our bases,
That's
right?
right.
And then from there, I've ran my business primarily by something that some folks will say you shouldn't be proud of that. You should market, market, market. I don't market. I don't know if you've never seen me post. If you need a coach, come to Arrive Leadership. I just kind of just it's all been word of mouth.
Mhm.
And from my relationships I've built over the years with different organizations, and we've been pretty prosperous. We've done well. And we went from just being me to bringing my wife on, then hiring 2 other people, and
That's how you do it.
so my goal is to balance, make sure I'm still enjoying the fruits of my labor,
Mhm.
but at the same time, keep myself busy. So I do this the majority of the time. The rest of the time, all volunteer. Volunteer to ARC, ARCF, Brochure Foundation, Leadership Delaware. I keep myself busy with that stuff. But it all started off just from folks. Sometimes your customer will tell you who you are.
Yeah.
So I've found like I went in going, I'll take all takers. And I have a few small business people, but the majority of
Mhm.
my folks are healthcare. I have
Mhm.
a good amount of respiratory therapists. I have, mostly administrators, and I have chief, a CMO, people like that. But if you look at my website, it doesn't say like I'm a healthcare executive coach. Your
Yeah.
customers tell you. And even I found that even when I was in my VP role, my future customers were telling me. So, yeah.
That is. Yeah. It's so true that your customers will let you know. Yeah. They will definitely let you know. You know what? And speaking of customers and people letting you know, about you and kinda, I don't know, like, leading you into what works for you, especially when it comes to, like, careers and passions and all of those things. When we met, we haven't talked about that. So, let's go there. It was summer forum,
I
and you
believe
know what's
so.
crazy? Yeah, it was summer forum. I knew Joel, but Joel didn't know me.
Oh, here we
And
go.
I say this because I heard his name, a lot with my former leader, and I said, "Oh, okay," you know, and that was one of the well, I guess you could say about my first year being, really active when it came to community organizations and things of that nature, and so went there, heard his first love language, and I know I keep bringing that up because it stuck with me, and it stuck with me because I could apply yeah, I could apply that to every relationship in my life. Whether it was a tough friendship that I was going through, feeling lonely, not feeling like I had any good friends at the time. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, did I not do enough this way? And then applying it just to every area of my life. And I never forgot it. So much so that I created a leadership development group, and part of the interactive workbook is a series from Joel. And it is speaking on the 5 love languages, and I'm teaching others how you impacted me, and now I'm impacting them. And
Okay.
I never bring it up when I speak to anyone without stating that, you know, I went to the AARC and I saw that on there, and I went and it was Joel Brown and it was, you know, the 5 love languages. And that's where we first met. And then where we officially met, where I think that you knew me versus me only knowing you, was at Summer Forum. And
Yeah.
so that was, I think, was it at the welcome party?
Yeah. I met you at the welcome party the first time. And
Yeah.
then the second time was I was at CHOA doing a
Oh,
talk,
mhm.
and I'm doing this talk, and I forgot which talk I was doing. And you were up front, and I was like, and I
XYZ
remember like,
Boom.
which one was it?
XYZ Boom.
Oh, yes, and I looked and I was like, "That's Kristi." I remember when I met you
Mhm,
because it does not take long for you to realize, like, this person's a leader,
mhm.
and even go, "This person has way more potential than they even know." And so, like, another example I use of that all the time is you guys know Katie Burr.
Yeah.
Right? I remember meeting Katie when I first started back. Well, I met Katie when she was a student, but I went
Mhm,
back to Nemours and she was an educator and I met her and I was like, she's got it. Like, and it's just that thing that's there. You see it and you just go,
mhm.
ooh. And after that, it's hard to forget those
Yeah.
individuals. So when you make those interactions and then it's more like the second time when I was like, I need to talk to her. Right.
Mhm,
And I was like, I need to talk to her. And engage in conversation with her versus her, finding me or bumping into me.
mhm.
And that's, I mean, I do that often, um, because again, it's what I love to just see people do well. And it is selfish as ever because I just thrive off of it, but it's all right.
I know, selfish in your own little way, because I will say that whenever I have, like, a true leadership question, or I'm kinda, like, trying to figure things out, you know, and I'm very intentional about who I seek guidance from, who I speak to, because the foundation of what you believe has to relate to what my morals and values are. And if it doesn't, it's very hard for me to kind of listen to you. So you are very impactful in that way. And yeah, I mean, I and
No,
especially applying, no, I'm saying like applying what I've learned just in general conversation with even being intentional about talking to you when we met again.
yeah.
The conversations are very thought provoking and they really make you reflect. Like you'll leave the conversation. I don't think there's any conversation I've ever had with you where I didn't come back and start reflecting on either something that I can do better, something that I need to start new, or do I need to revise? What do I need to do? Every conversation I've left with you has made me think.
So it's interesting, and I'll say this: I do not love small talk. Right? So you see me at Congress and you're going from person to person, person to person. When you see me there, I mean, I'm not saying I hate it, but I do not love, I would rather be in a room sitting there in the corner with two people in deep conversation. And I find myself in those situations all the time because it's my preference, right? And so because of that, I try to find people that I feel like I can get into a deep conversation where there's all these people, right? And we're in there having a deep conversation about like how to manage our families. Or we're like, you and I are sitting there having a deep conversation on like, how do we move forward? And, for Kristi, how do we move forward like in our state organization and within our own organization and be able to share our leaderships? Like I'd rather do that than be going around shaking hands and just having like kind of frivolous conversation. I mean, I know it's a necessary part of what we do. And
Yeah.
eventually you do have to do that to get to that next level of conversation with folks. But where I'm really comfortable is in the deeper conversation. So,
Well,
yeah,
I think we both can agree and can tell that that's definitely you and what you do. And we're appreciative of it. We
appreciate it.
definitely are. So when it comes to our listeners, what is something that either you've gathered from this conversation or that you feel like the listeners need to know when it comes to impact versus impression? What stood out or what do you want to stand out from this conversation and leave with them?
I was just thinking about, one of the sayings I've said in multiple lectures. If anybody's been to my lectures, I've said you're either at the table or you're on the menu, right? And it talks about being there to make decisions and being part of the decision making, so things don't happen to you. But I
Yeah.
will say your impression that you put on others will get you to the table, but your impact is what earns legacy, right? So the first part is getting to the table
Hmm.
and having a great impression, and the impression you give others, they will invite you to the table. But once
Yeah.
you get there, please do something that's going to have some impact on someone other than yourself.
Hmm.
So I will say that, I'm president-elect for the AARC, and next year I'll be president. And this is an opportunity where I will truly be at the table. And it's my obligation to make an impact that's going to help our members, that's going to help artisan globally, which eventually helps our patients and our
Hmm.
community. So your impression will get you an invite, but once you get there, do something that's impactful.
Hmm. That's good. I know. Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. I mean,
Go
yeah,
for it.
I'm excited to see it as well. Like I always say, I'm just glad to have a seat at the table. I'm glad to be able to witness, the greatness that's going to come from you being in the new elected role and you continuing to flourish in the current roles that you already have on a personal level. But I mean, just to add briefly to what you said is that don't live for the applause. Like, are you
Mm,
focused on that or are you focused on the progress? Because the progress comes from the impact. And I know earlier you mentioned about someone asking you about the politics and what are you going to do and how are you going to handle the politics? And I want people to understand that don't take politics as a literal sense. Politics can be people, politics can be you in your own way. Politics has so many meanings if you don't take it as literal. So get out your own way, know how to reflect, receive feedback just as well as you can dish it, make sure that you can take it. And that is also how you make impact. So this was great. Listeners have definitely grasped a gem or two. If you can get at least one thing, then our job has been done. So thank you so much for tuning in to Sis Let's Talk Leadership with the amazing Joel Brown. Everyone have a great night.
awesome.